I'm very excited to share that this season I've partnered with one of my new favourite brands, Current Body. You may have seen Current Body's LED light therapy masks on social media or in the leading fashion magazine's list of game changers for skin, and with good reason. It is 31% more powerful than other LED masks and has been proven to reduce wrinkles by 24% in just 4 weeks, as well as helping even skin tone, reduce redness, and minimise the appearance of pores. I couldn't believe it either, but this is why it works. The mask uses clinically proven wavelengths, red and near infrared. The red light waves accelerate collagen production within the skin, whilst near infrared wavelengths boost blood circulation, leaving the skin glowing, plump and youthful. You only need to pop it on for 10 minutes, at least 3 to 5 times a week. It is 100% safe, pain-free and hands-free, so you can sit back and watch some telly. Or my guilty secret is I use it as an excuse for a little meditation whilst letting my mask do its job. So if you're ready to invest in your skin's future, head to the link in my Instagram bio and use my discount code StyleDNA for 15% off. Your skin will thank you too. Today I'm going on a style journey with Creative Director Lucinda Chambers. Lucinda has worked in the fashion industry for more than 3 decades. As fashion director of British Vogue for 25 years, Lucinda has shaped the face of fashion and inspired the wardrobes of millions of women. She's worked as a creative consultant and stylist across high street and luxury brands, from Prada and Marni to H&M, River Island and Warehouse. Lucinda is co-founder of both the luxury label Colville and the revolutionary shopping platform Collagerie. Hello and welcome, Lucinda.
Oh, hello, Amanda. Thanks for inviting me.
Gosh, we've been in each other's universes for
a very long time.
3 decades.
Really? Yes, probably.
And I have to say, one of my all-time favourite images was when you collaborated with photographer Javier Valronat. Have I got that right?
You have.
And you created that image of Linda Evangelista wearing Wakeley, the beautiful, well, I thought it was beautiful, white silk gazelle oversized shirt and the white skirt, and then you threw a beautiful cream coat around the shoulders, and it was in this sort of magical, mystical setting. How did you create that set, that story?
I think for me, it's never just about the clothes, it's about the narrative of the personality. And Linda is an extraordinary model in the fact that, and they're quite rare actually, that you give them a personality and the clothes help you tell that story of who that person is. So it could be that you're thinking about a woman who's leaving her husband, she can't decide, she's a bit of a recluse, she goes to a sort of island, and it happens to be a coat story. So for me, it was always about who that character is. And I think with that particular shoot that you're talking about, Amanda, that was about a Hollywood star off camera. So I wanted to capture all those off moments where they looked as if they were about to go on set. They were as glamorous as they could possibly be, but they weren't acting in a glamorous way. So I remember the set was full of kind of old ropes and backstage, but she looked extraordinary within that, which happens, you walk off the theatre, stage left, and you find yourself in the wings. You're a Hollywood actress and you find yourself in a car parking lot. And I loved that juxtaposition, so I do remember that shoot. Yeah. And, we worked with incredible set designers and, who really helped, form your dreams and make those come true in a way.
Because it looked like it was, I don't know, some sort of, very off the beaten track. Those the sort of, there was mist rising, the brickwork, the ropes.
Yes, the rawness.
Yes.
I think that was the thing. It was the rawness of the setting with the beauty of the clothes, one of which was yours, which was wonderful. Wow. But I think, there's another one I did with Linda, which actually I think was my first Vogue cover, which was with Peter Lindbergh, and it was her as a New York taxi driver. And
I loved that.
We did it in Clerkenwell with lots of mist and with a New York taxi because the budget wouldn't allow us to go to New York. So we recreated that. And I think that was part of, such excitement to create something that felt really authentic. You had to believe, I always felt that you had to believe in that woman wearing those clothes in that situation, however fantastical those clothes were and however extreme the situation was, that there has to be a kind of belief that she is that character.
Yes, so that it doesn't become theatre.
No,
it doesn't become
exactly,
costume.
Exactly.
I mean,
even though I love costume and theatre.
I was trawling through my design studio at the weekend, and look what I came up with.
Oh my gosh.
And that
brings
was one
such
of yours.
happy memories back.
This was early days
Yes.
Wakeley.
Right, was it?
Can you tell me about this? Because I remember being so thrilled and when this came out, because I love a white shirt.
Yes, I know you do. And
absolutely.
You did the most brilliant white shirts because they were always with such volume. So they were very easy to photograph.
They were quite editorial, actually, weren't they?
Yes, because they had shape and form and texture. Yeah, so they were a dream to photograph.
I wish I had them. But when a white shirt goes, it goes. But tell me about this.
Well, this one that I've got in front of me. I love that you picked that one up because this was in Colorado. We went on a whitewater rafting trip, not that you'd know it from this picture, with a fabulous photographer called Sheila Metzner. And I was 6 months pregnant.
No.
And my baby was in the wrong position. I remember going to the doctor the day before with my husband to have a scan, and he said, well, your baby's in breech position, but you're not going anywhere. And my husband said, she's going whitewater rafting tomorrow. And I think the doctor just thought that was a joke and sort of moved on. It wasn't a joke. And actually, always have been, part of the wonderful thing about my career is traveling and all the extraordinary places that we've been to. But this was in Colorado, and you had to start the whitewater rafting trip at the beginning and finish it. There was no getting off. And there were no, you had to, everything was sustainable. You had to pee and poo, sorry to get into that this early in the morning, use your bucket. And we went down the river, and this was one of the pictures that came out of that.
And you had suitcases full of clothes.
We had a raft.
Probably.
We had a boat that was full of the suitcases. And Fabienne, the model, started with that beautiful long hair that you can see. And then halfway through, we cut it all off. And we did another story with her hair all cropped. So it was a fantastic trip. Took Sam McKnight, who's
I was going to say, was that Sam?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Some real adventures over the time.
Real adventures, yeah.
Well, is there one particular trip that stands out to you to this day?
I think the most extreme place I've ever been to is Ladakh, which is the northernmost part of India.
Yeah.
And it was my first ever trip. And I don't think
you choose Ladakh.
I read about it in National Geographic.
Trip.
And I thought, I've got to go there. And it's a really inaccessible place, pretty inaccessible to this day. It's surrounded by the Himalayas. It's desert, but surrounded by the Himalayas. And I was told it was quite okay to get in. It was hard to get out, but that just didn't deter me. Anyway, I asked Patrick Demarchelier to come and the model Cindy Crawford. And I said to them, and I said to their agents, there's no hotels. We're staying in a tent. They thought that was a joke. So when we got there, Patrick was a hotel. And I was like, no, it's a tent. And it was a tent. We stayed there for 10 days. But it was great. And it was fantastic. And it was so beautiful. And I think we all felt that it was the most incredible trip of a lifetime where, we didn't shower for 10 days. There's no running water. Obviously, we were in tents. But nobody minded because in those days, and I know I sound like a sort of old codger, people had the time to do those big trips. Yeah. But Ladakh, and then actually, we couldn't get out. We had 3 seats on the military aeroplane, and I made everybody draw burnt matchsticks. to who'd get the seat on the plane. Now, I would say, Cindy, you have the seat. Patrick, you have the seat. But I was like 18, and I was just like, fair's fair. Got to pull the matchsticks. And I think, and Cindy didn't get the seat. Patrick luckily did. So we were pushing Land Rovers through the Himalayas for 3 days.
Wow.
But I think, would I do that again? No.
But I think back to the logistics of
naive.
that and thinking of trunks full of clothes
We did.
and knowing you hats and no steamer, no hair washing, no, just, barely enough water probably to get
the makeup off and on. I don't think we even bothered to do that. I know, but I like adventure, and I'm quite an optimistic person. So I always think people are going to come along on the ride with me, because who doesn't want to go to Ladakh? Do you know what I mean?
Well, they clearly did. But have you ever had any complete disasters of shoots? Because you're such an optimistic person and you just sort of take people along with you.
We've had stuff happen, but I've never not come back with the picture. But yes, I remember going on a trip with Mario, and we were shooting in this incredible location, and it was just outside Miami, and there was a hurricane, and everything was flattened. But I always think, but the photographers I work with were all incredibly resourceful and positive, and actually, and I don't know whether this is true of shoots, relationships, anything really, that good things happen out of bad situations.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a crisis. It's a sort of opportunity, I think. And I always think everything for a reason. So, there has been, I've been in St. Bart's with Kate Moss, where half the clothes turned up and none of the hair and makeup turned up. So we all turned out our handbags. I don't wear very much makeup, so there was little joy from me. But, somebody had a mascara, and we were sort of spitting on that, and Sam, got a pencil and teasy weaseled the hair, and so you can always make something.
I've been in that situation in Marrakesh, yes, on a shoot. But tell me, in Miami, when the hurricane flattened everything, what did you do? Did you in that instance turn around and go home?
No, gosh, no, you wouldn't have the budget to do that. No, we just thought on our feet really quickly, and I can think of the pictures now. We just made the most of what was there. So I think we kind of painted a wall. There was some bits of wood lying around. We got them up to, and it was beautiful, the shoot, I think. And there was a cover out of it, and you always get it done by hook or by crook.
Yeah,
but proper. I think you have to kind of let go of your original plan. So you have to think in a fertile way, I guess, and look around you and use what you've got to play with.
Yeah, it's true creativity, isn't it? But exciting.
Yeah, I don't think you can. You just haven't got time to think this is disaster, because it's not. It's fashion. It's it's a fashion shoot. We'll make it work.
Yes, and at the end of the day, it's fashion.
Yeah.
It's not life or death.
No.
Yeah. Now, I've read somewhere that in your many years at Vogue, and then you had an interlude at Elle, you must have done thousands of shoots, quite literally. And is it true that you've never kept the magazines that your shoots appeared in?
It is true.
Oh my God. Did you keep a diary?
No.
Did you
kept a scrapbook?
I was going to say, did you? So what does the scrapbook look like?
It's very higgledy-piggledy, and I only kept it for a few years simply because my mother made it for me, because she was a bookbinder. So I put in old Polaroids.
I was going to say Polaroids.
My first kind of letter that was addressed to me at Vogue, I think, is in there. I actually haven't looked at it for a long time. I think I was always looking to the next thing. Yeah. I don't think I'm kind of a restless personality, but I know that I don't look back. So I probably was quite sanguine in thinking, that if ever the time came, and it did, where I wouldn't work at Vogue, I could probably find all those magazines. And of course, you can't probably now. But I'm not very nostalgic. When I see a picture that you've just shown me, it just evokes something so wonderful and magical. And, sometimes I see somebody's posted it on Instagram, and I love that, and I love having a flashback. But I don't need to pore over my old work.
Yes, because
I'm looking forward.
It's the next chapter.
But I love,
it?
I love it when somebody else brings it up, and they're always, I am glad to say, really happy memories.
Yeah, because you've now gone on to create Colville. Can you just run me through how that transpired?
Well, Colville is our brand that we have it's based in Milan, and Molly Malloy, who's my partner in that, and I worked at Marni for many years together. And I actually asked her to come to Milan and live there and work at Marni. And I think when we left Marni, we really wanted to carry on working together. So Molly was like, Lucinda, I think I'm going to start this clothing company. Would you be on board? And I was like, absolutely. And then actually at the same time, probably exactly the same time, Serena and I had the idea of collagerie. So we had the same idea we had a different idea about doing a different thing, collagerie, which is completely different. And I do think, gosh, there are these two very different things in my life. But what I also realise is I've always had two things running along a track.
In tandem.
Yeah.
And with Colville, did you go out and get backing for it? Because it's a very complex time in retail and fashion right now.
Yes, and we actually we took the sketches and the swatches and everything to Matches, because we knew Ruth Chapman, who owned Matches at the time, and actually Natalie Kingham, who was her fashion director. And we took them to them, and they were in the Shard, and Natalie said, I love it. And she bought it off the page.
Amazing.
Which was fantastic. I mean, Molly and I had spent, 11 years at Marni, and even though Colville is very, very different from Marni, a very different aesthetic and different kind of, a different way of working, our attention is very much on sustainability, about working with women's groups and artisans all around the world. It's a very different beast. And yes, it's not easy, and it's a challenge always, but it's one that's very close to our hearts. So, and I think, I think for many years, there are a lot of, men designers out there who are, some of them who are brilliant. But I think Molly and I, we are different ages, but we love very similar things, which is print and colour and the way something's made and made to last and beautifully made. And that's really important to us.
Did you get caught up in the whole Matches administration?
No, we were very lucky we didn't, no.
Thank goodness for that. But
I know a lot of designers have suffered. And
yeah, it's a fairly miserable time out there, I think. But then you created Collagerie.
We did.
As well, on your side. Well, I don't know which is the side hustle, actually, or they'll probably both get equal.
Collagerie is definitely my day job.
Yes. So tell me about that.
Well, Serena and I worked together for many years at Vogue. Serena was executive fashion director and I was fashion director. And Serena's like half my age.
So just for those who don't know, executive fashion director means what?
Well, she was very much on the brand side. I mean, she was really the interface of where the sort of commerce of Vogue met the creativity of Vogue. So she sat opposite me. She was very plugged into the brands, the designers, what their needs were, what their objectives were, in a commercial sense for Vogue.
So advertisers?
Yes, so she was really, there was the advertising department,
yep.
There was Serena, and then there was me, obviously with a lot of people in between. But so she would always tell me what brands, if they wanted something from Vogue or, wanted a bigger part to play or how we could work with them closer. So it was very much, she was the interface between advertising and me, and worked very closely with PRs all the time. And was brilliant, and we got on incredibly well. And when we both left Vogue, I left slightly before Serena, we were actually having a cup of coffee and we were thinking, where would we go now? I mean, we were very, very privileged at Vogue. You know, if you sat there on receive mode, which I always was, you know, new brands, new photographers, new models, old brands, wonderful designers. You know, you got so much information, which I loved. When we met for coffee, we were saying, I wonder where we would get that information from now. And also, I'd always loved the high street. I'd always been a big fan of, you know, accessible clothes and sharing those sort of finds. You know, I was the one who was trotting up and down Oxford Street, and I'd come back in my lunch hour and people go, what did you get? What did you get? And I go, well, I've got this pair of shoes from Zara. They're fantastic. You know, and then I'd see sort of like 6 people wearing them. And I love that. Not to bend anybody to my will, but I'm a big sharer. You know, I like doing the work and making the sort of shortcuts.
You're a big inspirer though, too. So that
would be very nice. But I just want to share what I found, basically. And so we were thinking, so Serena and I were thinking, well, if you need this and I need this, we're very different ages, we've got very different styles and tastes, then there must be a million women out there, and actually now a growing number of men, who also need this. It's a real shortcut. We like to think that it's a shortcut to style, that we do all the hard work for you. We see everything that's out there. We edit it, we curate it, and we give a shout out to discovery brands. I think, and so we thought this is too good an idea not to do it.
I just love it. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I think it's got a real space in the market, particularly with, you know, if you think of the sort of Net-a-Porter, I think of it as a sort of luxury hypermarket. There's no edit in there at all, and to have a destination for product with your eye and your taste level, and you're picking from it, you know, it may be Zara Home or all the way through to something that's beautifully handcrafted and costs thousands of pounds, all the way through. I love the way it's all put together. It's so inspiring. And I think in my years as a designer, a lot of people want a little bit of help because they may be incredibly busy with careers or families or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just, it's not how they roll.
No, I totally get that. And I think most people need help. I mean, I do, and I don't think I'm weird and wonderful. I think everybody, either they're, you know, time poor, or they're not very inspired, or they're stuck in a rut, or any of the above, really. And I think I think that was the real, not a challenge because it was wonderful, to start something where, you know, a bath mat from Zara would look very, very happy alongside a beautiful Gucci handbag, and how to build a website that didn't feel anxiety inducing, felt beautiful, felt as close to a magazine as you could possibly get, but with that incredibly broad price range. So, and also taking you on a journey. I don't know, Amanda, if you're like me, but, you know, I think I want, in a very practical way, or I need a pair of black sandals. But I might end up by buying a lampshade. But that journey has got to be a wonderful one. And that sort of segue. And I feel that's what we do at Collagery. We take you on a journey that can be either inspirational or it can be very practical. It can be lots of different things, whatever you're in the mood for. But the thing that it doesn't have is any anxiety attached to it. So whatever your price point, you know, whether you can not afford that, or whether, you know, I mean, people have said, you know, that they've shopped Zara for the first time, or they've invested in a bag that they normally probably wouldn't. But, you know, I think I think that's the beauty of collagerie, is that everything sits alongside in a very uplifting edit. And actually, one of the first things that we thought about was something called In the Mood, which we still do, and I really enjoy working on it, which is we can do something like a thin blue line. And it could be a thin blue line as a hair clip, a thin blue line in a lampshade, a thin blue line in a rug. You know, it can be really off-piste, but it just takes you on this journey. And I think
that's lovely. And you've always been the arch storyteller. But this is a different type of storytelling, and it's I suppose it's a commercial storytelling.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because, you know, from a creative point of view, and a kind of, as a woman who loves to see what's out there and I really love product, and I love clothes, and I love stuff for the home. But commercially it made sense because, you know, Serena saw this at the sort of tail end of her time at Vogue, was that, you know, a lot of brands were putting their commercial spend into digital. So commercially it made sense, and creatively it made sense. So it was a real kind of marrying of, I think, our two strengths into this website.
I mean, bravo, really. Good luck with it.
Thanks, Amanda.
You know, continued good luck. But I want to talk about your personal style today. I mean, we've got this fantastic CV and career to date. And so we're going on a style journey. When you got out of bed this morning, how did you decide what you were going to put on?
Well, I'm a fan of a plan.
Are you?
I am. I do. Yes, I do like a plan. And actually, when I found an outfit that I feel good in, I repeat it. I'm totally rinse and repeat. So I have worn this combo before. But this morning I felt optimistic, which is why I've got gold sandals on. And it's pouring with rain outside. But I don't care, because I did hear that the weather forecast is going to pick up. So I'm channeling that. I'm manifesting the sun.
And will you take a little wardrobe selfie of yourself?
No.
Once
I wouldn't go that far.
But
that's
it's
a good
logged into
idea.
your brain.
I should do that. Yeah. That's a tip. That's a tip from the top.
No, I love doing that, because otherwise it's just there's too many things going on.
No, you're absolutely right.
And
particularly with the accessories, of which I wear a lot. So I'm going to do that.
But you grew up in London.
I did.
Would you say you were exposed to fashion from a young age?
No, not at all. But
I know
my
your
mother
was
loved
very
clothes.
creative.
She was, although she would never say that she would never have said that she was creative, but I think she really was. She was mad about clothes. My father was as well, actually. But my mother was an amazing seamstress. She taught sewing. So she taught me.
Did she teach you? Yes.
Yes. And I love sewing. I love sewing now. And
it's a wonderful gift, actually, isn't it?
Yes, and also just to mend things, you know, and cut things up and make something else out of something. I really enjoy doing that. Yes, and I can remember most of her clothes. She really loved clothes. We would go to Harrods, not because we could afford anything there, but would go to look and learn. She would always carry a tape measure in her pocket, which I still do, and we'd try on all the clothes, we would measure them, and then we would go and buy the fabric, and we would copy something like a cloak or and I remember all my outfits as a child.
Lovely. And where were you buying your fabrics from?
Peter Jones it was then.
Yep.
I mean, latterly I'd go to like Berwick Street, to all those fabric houses there, or the cloth shop I love in Portobello Road. But I think in those days it was Peter Jones. Yeah, it was.
Do you remember the moment that you first put on something that made you feel transformed?
My mother made me a red snakeskin mini dress with a huge, stonking great zip. And it was short, and I remember I had these black shiny shoes with a stonking great buckle on them. And I wore it with like a skinny polo neck sweater underneath. I can't remember. I was probably about 6 or 7.
And so that would
I just
have
felt
been
really great.
Late 60s?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think was your light bulb moment in terms of fashion?
When I left art college, I was making perspex jewellery, and I was selling it in Camden Market and stark naked in Camden Liberty and I had a stall in Camden. And this was a real light bulb because it changed everything for me. And a pair was used in a free magazine called Miss London, which was handed out on the tube. And it was like a sort of magic thing had happened that, I mean, because I wasn't a magazine reader. I wasn't a fashion, I made my clothes, but I didn't think that I could have a career in fashion. I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't know that was a possibility. But when I saw these earrings in this magazine, I couldn't believe that I had touched them. I couldn't believe, let alone made them with a Black & Decker in my bedroom, but I couldn't believe that I had touched them and then they were on a model. That to me was like, it was just like something otherworldly and unobtainable and just so exciting. And then I thought, so they left my bedroom and they ended up in this magazine. What's that process? And that was a light bulb because I thought, I've got to know what that process is because I didn't believe that there was one. I just thought it was magic.
And were you wearing those Perspex earrings a lot yourself?
Yes.
What was your style like at that time?
All sort of punky. They were kind of fluorescent. The earrings were all kind of fluorescent, jaggy, zigzag, very Bowie-esque, kind of lots of colours. My hair was multicoloured. I made all my clothes out of furnishing fabrics. I looked a bit freaky. I was a kind of probably romantic punk, I think. Less of an aggressive one, more romantic and rebellious and, just loved experimenting with fabrics and patterns and texture and haircuts and makeup and, yeah, my mother always try everything out.
And, you were at Condé Nast at Vogue for the best part of 3 decades, weren't you? And more, actually. How would you describe your style evolution from first walking through the door of Vogue House?
When I first went through the door of Vogue House, I thought everybody would look extreme and exciting and extraordinary. So I think I remember I made an outfit.
And for your first day?
Yeah. And bear in mind, I wasn't in the fashion department, I was secretary to the Petty Cash woman. And it was a tutu. I looked a bit like a kind of Morris dancer on acid, sort of me. And it was a tutu. And I remember I hadn't got time to completely finish it off, but I made all these petals and I stuck them in the waistband of the tutu. And then I had ribbons going up my legs. And, something crazy. And I remember all the leaves dropped off. So I was there with my bottom hanging out at the end of the day. But, and everybody was in sweater dresses. And I just was like...
And how did you feel in your tutu?
I think I started the day feeling pretty good. I probably ended it feeling a bit of a clown and a bit stupid. But I just thought that, they'd expect something, not that anybody looked at me, and they didn't.
And do you still find yourself experimenting with clothes?
I don't experiment. I love buying clothes and not that I buy a lot, but I like experimenting with colour, I think, and shape and print, but less with the kind of extremeness, I think.
And do you use vintage shopping as an excuse to experiment with those things?
That's a really good point, Amanda. Yes, because I think I do love vintage shopping. Less so now. I used to be a big vintage shopper just to find that thing that nobody else had or that was so, individual. And also I love sewing myself, so I love buying something vintage and then, maybe a dress and then cutting it up and making it into a skirt or, something like that. But so I like doing things to things.
Where are your favourite vintage haunts?
Oh, Portobello Road.
Still?
Yeah, and I go to Car Boots at the weekend and I often find something. But I look more for housey things at Car Boots.
I've got to ask you about your wedding dress. I haven't seen any pictures of it, I have to admit. Tell me about it.
It's actually a coat. And it was a funny story because I went to a beautiful vintage shop back in the day called Marilyn Garrett in Pimlico. And she had this Peloponnese navy blue, very long, sleeveless, gold embroidered, sounds flashy, but it's not, it was dull gold, embroidered long vest. It was beautiful. And it was a fortune. And And I said, Marilyn, that's beautiful. And she said, yes, it's actually going to a museum in Greece. And I said, how wonderful. And it just sounded so romantic. And I tried it on and it fitted like a glove. Anyway, fast forward maybe 5 years later, and I got engaged to Simon, and I went back to Marilyn and I said, do you remember that beautiful vest? And I said, have you got anything vaguely like it? And she said, it's come back from the museum. Anyway, so I bought it, and when I said to my mother I was getting married in navy blue wool, she did think that was a little bit odd. But it's beautiful, and I wear it sometimes to, my 50th birthday party, and it's a lovely thing. It's a beautiful thing.
And what did you wear it with?
I wore it with a very dull gold, beautiful, sort of long, with tiny puff sleeve dress underneath.
You obviously, through the years, you've collaborated with so many inspirational designers. I wondered if working closely with these designers ever had an impact on your personal style.
Oh, hugely, hugely. Funnily enough, I've only ever worked with women designers, not because that was a sort of choice, because you often don't have a choice in the matter, but the first designer I worked with was Miuccia Prada.
Yeah.
And I was at Prada for 10 years, a massive influence. She saw fashion and women with such intelligence. I think with her, and also when Comme des Garçons came to town, I've never dressed in a sort of sexy way or kind of bling way, because I just don't have, my face isn't sexy. So I've never gone in that direction. And designers like Miuccia or Ray Karakubo, women designers, they gave you a freedom to dress intelligently. And I think they were so revolutionary, because you didn't have to be that showy, sexy person. You didn't have to, they gave you permission. I mean, actually, when I think of somebody like Christopher Kane as well, I think what all these amazing designers do is give you permission to look at something differently or to dress differently. And I know that sounds a bit weird because why can't you give yourself permission? But in a way, we all want to look, okay and confident. And when they give you a different vision, and when they put on a different vision, my God, it makes you fly, And for Miuccia, I worked for Prada for 10 years, and at the time, then, halfway through, she decided to launch Miu Miu. And what she was doing was very different. And I still wear the things that I have to this day, and they haven't changed. There was a kind of longevity about it that was wonderful. The same with Comme des Garçons as well.
What was the process of actually working with Miuccia?
Well, it was interesting because I worked on the first ever Prada show, and I remember going around Vogue saying, has anybody heard of Prada? And I think one person said, I think they do luggage. So I thought, oh, luggage, leather, factories, that's interesting. And worked on the first show and stayed with her. And there was literally kind of 3 of us, knitwear designer, me and Miuccia. And the process was really, working on the designs as well as actually, choosing the models that go into the show and everything. So I really learnt how to put a show together on Prada's watch, which was incredibly amazing now I think about it.
And what an incredible journey.
It was a journey. I mean, I'd done a couple of shows before for John Rocha, which was wonderful. And so I kind of vaguely knew, but not really, to that from the beginning to the end of the design process, right to the end of actually showing.
I was going to say, because, it wasn't just the show.
No.
Then you would go into the next season with Miuccia.
Yes. And, you were there to kind of, a lot of designers, and this was true of, Consuelo, who was at Marni, and Jill Sander, a lot of designers work in a very isolated way, and I always thought it was my job to kind of come in with ideas, with inspiration, and have a kind of window on the outside world of what was happening, but also to find things that hadn't been done, or, that was my job. And it's always your job, I think, to inspire and kind of delight and bring something fresh to the table every time.
Yeah, true. Now, I know this is going to be a very challenging question for you, for someone with such eclectic taste, but if you could only dress in 2 brands, one designer, one high street, which 2 brands would those be and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, it would actually not so difficult, although I do love, as you're right, so many brands. It probably would be Colville, because we design with, a woman in mind that's often us. And it would probably be Zara, because of the choice.
You seem, unsurprisingly, so very confident. Do you think clothes are part of that confidence?
Yes, I do. I think but I do understand the anxiety of clothes, because we all have that, and it's not to say that I wake up every day and put something on and feel fabulous. I don't. And often you've just got to try things out and they don't work at the end of the day and you think that wasn't quite right or whatever. But you have to get dressed every day. And I think, isn't it great if that can be a source of pleasure rather than anxiety? But it's taken me a long time to work that out. I did some research about this, because I did a study with Imperial College about interviews. And people make up their mind. I think it's something within the first 24 seconds. And that's so unfair in a way. And of course, it's kind of how you come across and, your manners, and, your attitude. And yes, clothes can give you incredible confidence, and they can also give you incredible anxiety. So I understand people who just want to be comfortable and get by. I totally get that. But I also think that they can be magical and have powers of transformation and we feel like $1 million.
Yes, we can message through our clothes.
Yes.
What do you reach for when you want to feel empowered, for example?
Probably a pair of earrings.
Would you say age is a consideration to how you're dressing?
No, I don't think so. Not consciously.
What's sexy for Lucinda Chambers?
What I find sexy is people who look like they're really in their skin. I probably find men sexy who really don't look as if they bother and look as if they're wearing kind of French workwear and they've worn that forever. Whereas I think actually I find women sexy in a completely different way, like just looking really comfortable and cool, I suppose, and a little bit edgy and a little bit different.
Yeah. Would you say you've got a style icon?
Probably Tilda Swinton, both off-screen and on. I always think she looks incredible on screen in those films that she's done where she dresses in an extraordinary way, and I'm sure she has a huge hand. Well, I know she has a huge hand in what she wears. But also, I just think she looks like she loves fashion and enjoys it and looks so unusual and looks so intelligent.
In all your years at Vogue, you must have had to dress some extraordinary characters.
Wonderful variety of musicians and actors and artists. No, incredible privilege, really, to have that access. Yeah.
And any really tricky times when you just couldn't get that person into the look that you wanted?
Well, there was only one tricky time where the look wasn't there, and it was when we were shooting Emma Watson, and none of the clothes turned up. We were on the Eurostar. They had all got stolen from the train, and we were on the last train coming in. It was about midnight. We went into the luggage van of the Eurostar. All the suitcases had been stolen.
Oh, my God.
So we had literally nothing to dress her in. And again, it was a bit of a sort of scramble. I think I borrowed a hat from the assistant and I took the sweater off my back and scrambled around for a pair of sunglasses. She wasn't a happy bunny. No, that did not go down well. No, it did not go down well. She was young and she was really excited. It was her first Vogue shoot.
Yeah.
And I think she was really disappointed, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we did manage to get a dress from like a fabulous Chanel thing in the end for the cover, but yeah, the rest of it was a very patch and scratch.
Ooh. And talking about worst fashion moments, would you say you've had one particular one personally that you look back on and you think, what was I thinking?
I don't think I can remember one, but I do remember dressing I had a phase of all purple, purple underwear, purple eyeshadow, purple hair, purple glasses, purple. I can't wear the colour purple now. Not that I was having such a miserable time at that time, but it was too much.
You traumatised yourself with it.
I traumatised. I was in purple trauma, yeah.
Most people are traumatised by their school uniform colour, but
I love my school uniform.
That was a self-induced...
Yeah. It's just too much.
Is exercise and fitness an important part of who you are?
I wish it was. No. No, I know I've got to.
What's your approach to your own hair and makeup?
Makeup, I wish I was good at it. I'm not, even though actually I worked in the beauty department of Vogue for 5 years. I really am into and very curious about beauty brands. So I do take care of my skin, and I love discovering new brands. At the moment, there's a wonderful new brand called Seed to Skin, and smaller brands. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Everything's grown on their farm. It's a wonderful thing. And then there's things like Demarchelier, also an English brand, beautiful, in Devon. So I do take care of my skin, but the only thing I do, I would never let go of my hair colourist, who's Nicola Clark, who I've been going to for 30 years, and she does blonde brilliantly. She does Kate Moss, Kate Blanchett, Kate Winslet.
She does it well.
And she squeezes me in.
Let's talk about sustainable fashion for a moment.
You know, Colville definitely, before sustainability was a word on everybody's lips, was something that was absolutely uppermost in our mind. And I think we all have to be responsible in a sense of, you know, wearing our clothes for a much longer time, making them have a different life when they go on, not throwing things away, not making, you know, impulse silly purchases that you just wear for an afternoon. And I think, you know, thought and consideration and has to be absolutely front and foremost. And I think it is up to each and every one of us, because it's through our choices of whether we buy that or that, from there or there, that will really shift things.
I mean, it's a really interesting time, isn't it? Because we're all being told, buy less, buy better, you know, repair, upcycle, etc., etc. And yet, when you think of it from a brand's perspective, their ambition is sell more, sell more, sell more. And it's a real contradiction.
But it's ever been thus. I mean, I think, you know, whether you choose to... I mean, I buy maybe, you know, an expensive handbag maybe once every 3 years or 5 years, but I look after it, or I give it away, or I do quite a lot of charity sales with my clothes. I don't have anything in my cupboard that I don't wear on a regular basis.
But it's a challenge for the brands, isn't it?
It is a challenge for the brands. And at Marni, we did many collections a year, which we then actually cut down because it was too much.
Yeah.
There was too much product. And we were doing too many collections. And I think you can change the nature of a company, and you do less collections with less product, but the product's very thoughtful.
What's the oldest piece in your wardrobe?
It's a hat that I got from a wonderful shop called Crola, and I probably got it in the late 70s, early 80s. But I actually don't hang on to a lot of things. I mean, I don't buy a lot of new things, but I also don't hang on to things. But I have hung on to that because it's got lots of memories of when I lived in a squat, and I dressed in like men's clothing, and that was part of that.
Now, if someone was to describe your style DNA in 3 words, what 3 words would you want those to be?
I think probably somebody might say I'm eclectic, bit of a mishmash, decorative.
So we've got eclectic, decorative.
I think comfortable.
I'd say colourful.
Yeah, I do love colour. Yeah. Colour is always involved.
Let's spin on to some quickfire questions. So these are quick answers. What fashion advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, try things out, try things out, try things out.
Which fashion trend would you most like to see make a comeback?
quite love 70s kind of twisted Jarvis Cocker situation.
Fashion or beauty trend that you'd consign to room 101?
Do you know what? Nothing. I think there's something for everyone, and everyone looks great in something.
But I love the positivity of that. Your last impulse buy?
Probably my wonderful handbag, stripy, colourful, Strathbury collab.
Collab, yeah. Your views on tattoos?
Love them on other people. No, they're beautiful. I mean, my sons have all got them. They're beautiful.
And do you have one?
No.
Grooming or well-being treatment you couldn't give up?
My hair colourist, Nicola.
High-end or high street?
Both.
Crocs, cute or puke?
Oh, I love Crocs.
Gazelles or sambas?
Sambas.
Sports luxe or rock and roll?
Sports luxe.
Cashmere or cotton?
Cotton.
Cargos or chinos?
Chinos.
Trilby or Tracy?
Tracy.
Trend or style?
Style.
Colour or monochrome?
Colour.
Pattern or plain?
Pattern.
Hoarder or editor?
Editor.
Charity shop or resale?
Charity shop.
Shapewear or lingerie?
Both at the same time.
Bikini or one piece?
Both, not at the same time.
And finally, at the end of the day, what do you or don't you wear in bed?
Pyjamas.
Lucinda, what a joy to spend this time with you. God, I could have asked you a million other questions, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for
and
having
your
me. Thanks,
brilliant
Amanda.
answers. What fun. Thank you.
Thank you.